doing? Good? Are we on? Okay, so you've been studying way back for the last 6 weeks, seems like. What particular topic in chemistry? Say just like any term pops in your head.
Imperial
Empirical formula. Molecular formula. What was the original topic we had to do? Converting moles to grams. Okay, so when you do a lab in science, do you have a mole instrument or do you have another type of instrument? A balance. What does a balance measure? Mass. So if you know grams and mass for an element, how do you convert that to moles?
Should I do moles to grams?
We have the mass. How do we use the information from the periodic table to convert grams to moles? Pick that up, please. Thank you. If, for example, if I have 32 grams of lithium, what am I going to need to know about lithium to convert to moles?
The mass.
You got to tie them together.
All right, one thing at a time. Y'all always go so fast. If you know grams, you can convert to moles for any element by dividing by what? Average atomic mass. You just said for lithium, 6.941. Okay, so then we progress from converting grams to moles to the lab where we wanted to know the mass of the part of a compound, that blue powder. What was the chemical we separated from the blue powder? Copper. Yeah, it was before spring break. So then you got your copper separated. And then what did you do with that dry copper at the end?
You put it on the hot plate to dry it.
And then you dried it, and then all you had at the end was what? A beaker with copper. So then what was the ultimate goal of that particular step? What did you want to know about copper?
See how much water you could drive off the copper?
In that particular lab, we were focused on copper, but we did a lot of labs, one of which involved water. But we're trying to reflect on the lab you did where you separated
How much
copper.
actual copper you can take out of it?
Okay, so what did you measure at the end?
The weight. The mass.
How much
The
copper
mass.
is in the
Okay,
gold?
yeah, the mass. All right, so and then so we've been using mass and moles for a lot of different things. Now, when you did that lab and you got the mass of the part, what were we trying to figure out experimentally about the copper? We had the mass of the total, the blue powder, copper sulfate pentahydrate, and you had the mass of the copper. What did we want to get from the mass of the part, copper, divided by the total sample?
The percent composition.
Percent composition of copper, right? So we progressed from grams to moles, we progressed to calculating percent composition with mass when you separated your unknown, that was copper. Now more recently we've been using percents to help us determine what. Well, let's say in lab you had a sample. On the paper problems recently, you haven't had a sample size. What have you been assuming your sample size is? 100 grams. So what did the assumption of a 100-gram sample allow you to do with your percent composition?
Take away the percent sign.
Right, you think about it by changing the percent to what unit? Grams. But what we've shown is why you can do that. You, in your mind, and I understand it firsthand, if you assume a 100-gram sample, you can change the percent sign to what? Grams. But that's really because percent times a 100-gram sample is going to cancel, and it legitimately would be the mass. So raise your hand if, put on your hand from 1 to 5, 0 being like not sure, 5 being I got it, and 3 if you can get the mass from a percent. If you were given a percent for an element, could you get its mass if you knew the sample size? 100 grams. Hold your hands up so I can see. You might want to pan. Now, hold them up high. Hold them up high. Okay. Now, I'm assuming if you're not raising your hand that you're not really sure. Okay. Okay, so the question was, okay, good, good. That's all right. That's why we do it. We got to know what, where you're at. So I just asked you, if you were given a percent, could you use that information for an element to get its mass? And you responded as you did. Now, you've been doing paper problems where you were given the percent and you've done some conversions for percent to grams. And you actually looked at some videos where you saw someone doing a lab and you used their data and watched them do the lab, and you recorded the data, and you can come on in. You recorded the data in order to, in the most recent thing you've done on paper, paper problems, and the video labs. What was the ultimate goal? You wanted to use, it was a percent, you wanted to get grams, but what did you ultimately want to know about the elements you were dealing with? That's not a really good question, is it? If you were given the percent of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, if you were given the percent, what did you just tell me that you wanted to do with your percent? You want to know what first?
Divided by
The
100.
mass. You want to know the mass first. So you want to convert the percents to grams. What was the ultimate goal of getting the mass? Why did you want to get the mass? What are you usually going to do to mass? Convert to what? Grams to moles. And what do you ultimately want to use the mole ratios for? To find what? We use the percent to get mass. Then we converted grams to moles, which you've been telling me. And what do we do to the mole values?
Divide by the average of something.
Divide all mole values by the lowest mole value. And then what is the ultimate goal? We've reached the end and we want to know, what do you call these things down here? Subscripts. In the end, the goal is to determine the, what? I'm going to make up a number from a recent, problem.
From the full compound.
I won't write with a eraser on. Just recently, you did a problem. And you ended up, I know I've been grading those papers, they're graded. You did a problem. You had this particular situation. What do you call that? In the very end, you divided all mole values by the lowest, and you get the
Empirical formula.
okay. All right. Now, what's really fun about this activity is because you actually apply the situation to real world application. You know, I know a lot of you know that you do those paper problems and we do labs. And recently, because of me being sick and all that stuff, you've been doing the lab through video. Well, this particular activity lets you apply everything you've been doing on paper to a real life situation. And I know we just talked about a lot. You've been doing this for about 6 weeks. Well, not this topic, but you've been working on each of these topics individually for about 6 weeks. So now you're going to put them all together, okay? What the situation is you're going to work in teams. And you're going to, just for fun, don't let it delay you in doing your work, but you can come up with a company name for your team. And I'm gonna need for there to be 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. I'm gonna need for most of you to have, two things, two people. No, it's gonna be
We do three in a
two
group?
in a group. It's gonna be two in a group. All right, so I'm gonna need for you, to go ahead, I think it'd be better for you to go ahead and position yourself with your partner, and then I'll be able to talk to your group. So if you would, you can get up and move if you need to. Position yourself. That's good. That's good, Alexa. I was saying that was good that you were panning. All right, we got, okay, we've got, I'll take it, thank you. We've got, you got your teams together. Okay. Now I need for your company, which is your company, is your team. I need for you to, listen. I want to give you your scenario. Every single person gets a sheet, so you don't have to wait on somebody to get to look at it. Okay, what you're going to receive is a letter from the National Transportation Safety Board. And this particular letter is going to explain to your company what you've been hired to do. And if you successfully, provide I'm the NST, I'm the NST National NTSB I'm the NTSB person who's representing. If you submit your findings back to me, your paycheck will be 100 points. Okay. Now, we got our teams. Now, we'll have to be flexible if we need for somebody to move to another group. Are you going to work with them now? Okay, you can.
Wait, with us? You talking about with us?
Just you need to find someone. You can choose. I like for you to choose. Why don't you come up here and work with these two fellows right here? They seem nice enough. Mainly, there's a chair right here that turns around conveniently. Okay. Now, I don't want to say too much because that defeats the whole purpose. Your company has been hired to evaluate some information. Now, your team members can be penalized for certain non-team-like behaviors, such as being on your telephone and that sort of thing. So make sure everybody on the team earns their paycheck. Now, I don't want to say too much because a part of this is you figuring out what you need to do. But well, I'll tell you the scenario, and then I got to tell you one quick thing. Let me tell you one quick thing first. In science, we have all these instruments, and you all know by now, you've used the balance. All right, you've used the balance. There's another instrument. I'm going to pause for a minute. I hate to distract those of you paying attention. Those team members who are not fully cooperating, you're going to lose 10 points every time I see you. You don't deserve to get paid the same as the people who are working. So just make sure you're aware of your behavior. Back to this. You've used the balance. There's an instrument that's way too expensive for high schools to have. This instrument actually, the chemist puts the chemical, you find a white substance, puts the chemical in the machine, and the machine tells the percent by mass of each element in the compound. You remember how you've been reading, oh, there's 25.4% carbon, and you read that on a piece of paper? Well, there is a machine that does that. All right, I know that sounds like I'm making it up for this lab. I'm not making it up. This is legit. You know, in these crime scenes, people find, the investigators find substances, and they can take them back to their lab, and I don't know if every lab has this machine, but there is a machine that will spit out the, element that's present and the percent composition. And I know I made mine rudimentary, so to speak, but I pretended like the machine has printed out this for each business. And actually what it does, it prints out a bar graph. If you look at the board, I didn't even erase that formula because it doesn't relate. Each company will receive this. Now, just real quickly, the instrument's called a mass spectrometer. Byron?
Yes, ma'am.
The instrument's called a mass spectrometer. You don't really have to know that. All you need to know is how to interpret it. All right, now, if you have a printout, it's going to have a bar graph or column graph. Now, what your printout is going to have is the element. Okay, so if I just make this carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, you will have the element identity and then the percent. Let's just for conversation's sake, make that 50, make that 100. And what would be the approximate percent composition of carbon in this substance according to this instrument? It's a little above 50%. Just for conversation's sake, we'll put that there. Now, I really need for you to listen because I'm getting ready to shut up and getting ready for y'all to do your business. Now, if nitrogen has a bar graph all the way up there, and this is a measure of relative abundance or percent, what could you, it's not quite touching, what could you say about the percent of nitrogen?
99.
You could say 99% is nitrogen. Does anybody have a question about how to interpret this? You'll get your element and you'll get the percent. Since it's a government agency that investigates plane crashes, the instrument is really fine-tuned, and you don't even have to make an interpretation. The label, the data is labeled. First thing I want to do is pass out the scenario to your company. And I'm going to walk around and give you a few minutes to ask yourself, your group rather. I need for you to ask your group, what do you know, anytime you're hired to solve something, you have to get organized. So I'm going to ask your group to read the letter, and we'll have a discussion in about 3 minutes on what you're actually trying to do. Just that. What you're not going to do, you're just going to actually converse with your group, and whenever we come back together, we're going to have a discussion on what is it you're trying to do. Pass those out. Did y'all get yours? He needs to have one too. Each person gets one. You gotta read these.
Give that to Chris.
Here. Everybody has one? All right. Taylor. I should be looking down at your paper reading. Crystal, you need to turn your chair around so that you can work in the same office complex as me. Y'all should be talking about, once you've read, talk about what your purpose is gonna be. Talking about your purpose. What is your business gonna have as a purpose? Yeah, I want y'all to have a conversation about your purpose. And, make sure everybody in the company participates. Properly, so we'll have employee deductions, so we'll ask them
You say mine.
Okay, hold your hand up for a group. How many minutes do you need within three? Hold one person per group. You need 3 minutes? You need 2 minutes? All right. It wasn't an option. I asked you, do you need 3, 2, or 1?
You said 3.
I asked you to hold your hands up so I can know like a sample of the group. All right, it looks like we're going with 2 minutes.
Everybody had a. Who's the pastor? Can our company name be the company?
Yes. And what are y'all, what is your purpose gonna be? Okay, okay, you got that company, right?
It's just me and her and them two.
Okay.
You said 2 and a group.
Yeah, figure that out later. What I want you to do, is, what's the purpose? What are you gonna be trying to accomplish? Now, don't let your time be used for coming up with a company name. You could probably come up with a company name at any point you're in.
No.
What's the purpose?
Gators, right?
Okay. According to this scenario, what has happened? There's a plane crash.
And we gotta find chemical stop.
Do you know what you're gonna need to know about the chemicals?
Who are the passengers?
They're gonna, you told me there are gonna be chemicals on passengers. And, you don't have the information yet, no. So that's probably good. It's a little abstract, because I'm trying not to give too much information out, because then you'll be looking at 3 sheets instead of. I'm gonna assign that. All right, everybody, if you would pause, because, I mean, I know there's some questions you have naturally, because I'm giving you all the papers. I didn't really want to give you all the papers, and then you have so much information. I'm gonna ask you a question. According to this letter, what has happened?
It was a plane crash.
Raise your hands, too many different.
There was a plane crash and the chemical got on the passengers. And we trying to find out the chemical that's on the passengers.
But the passengers died before.
Wait, there's too many people still talking. We've stopped talking. And, just say real quickly what you said again and raise your hand if you want to add to it.
I said there's been a plane crash and the chemicals got on the passengers. And we're trying to find out which chemicals got on the passengers.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to add?
But the passengers died before the
Oh,
a murder.
really good. And so you contributed, and so we're working as a large team right now. Listen, but you got to make sure you listen to everybody, not only in your group but around at this point. Megan and Grace actually recognized that the investigators suspect the murder was on the plane before it crashed. So, what are you using the fact they think there was a murder? What is your team hired to do?
Figure out what was going on.
It says the last second sentence from the end. You're saying figure out the chemicals, which is a way of saying, what do you say? You're talking so softly. I heard this group say you gotta figure out the chemicals. Deschanel said you gotta figure out the chemicals. And so then I asked, what is that really what you're saying is from the paragraph language? You gotta evaluate what? Your evidence. Now, I'm gonna, as the NTSB, who got it that time? As the NTSB, liaison, I'm gonna each, give you a passenger number, okay? And then I'm gonna give you, the data. I'll give you the data and then and will you pass that out for me, one per person? All right. Each person. All right, let's see. Grace, you and Megan are gonna be, we'll say 1 and 8.
1 and 8.
Yes. Are y'all working as a large group?
No, us. I think we're has a large group. Yeah.
Okay, 2 and 7.
2 and 7.
Okay, y'all ready? Write it down.
What's right now, right here, Dr. Jones?
3 and 6. Yes. Yeah.
3 and 6, where?
They're 3 and 6.
What are we right now?
4 and 5.
Oh, I said 5 and 6.
2 and 8. 3 and 5. Really important to write down who you get.
Thanks, Megan.
4 and 3 and 5. 4 and 6.
4 and 6.
Yes. Um, 1 and 4. 2 and 6. What? Well, you can't really give them a name right now because some people have the same number you do, and you'd be naming the same passenger by different names. We'll do that in a minute, okay? Now, does everybody have the data sheet? I promise I'm getting ready to let y'all work, but it's important that you know what you're doing. It's to some extent. Now, you've been given the scenario, plane, and I'm telling you what you told me. Plane has crashed. Chemicals have spilled on the passengers, according to Deschanel. Megan, what did you say? You got to figure out what?
The chemicals that were found on the passengers.
Right, you got to figure out what were the chemicals. Identity found on the passengers, and then Crystalline said, I think, very quietly, what you're doing is you're evaluating the evidence. You know, we had 8 passengers. In lieu of time, I didn't let everybody do 8. You got each assigned. That's why we hired companies. Each company got 2 passengers, and we're gonna have like 2 groups doing 2 passengers so we can share fair. Okay. Now, does everybody know? Raise your hand. 1 means yes. You know who your passengers are. You have 2. Okay? Alright. Amar, y'all do? Now, keep your hand up. Keep yes, 1 means you got your data sheet. Now look at your data sheet, okay? You wanna, that's the table. The table. The table, not the chart. This table. What are you gonna need to do before you get carried away? Megan is saying mark the passengers that are your job. You don't need to do another company's work. Okay? Now, look at your chart. Raise your hand. Your chart. If you have your chart. All right, and you see what axis has the passenger numbers. What axis has the passengers identified?
The, x-axis.
Yes, x-axis. Now, I'm getting ready to shut up. Thank goodness. All right, everybody pay attention, give me 30 more seconds. What do you want to do with the, what are these, what did the legend tell you? Nice, it can say a little bit more specific than elements. What does the legend tell you about each bar?
Tells you which one.
The identity of the elements. Now, it's real important you pay attention because I'm getting ready to shut up, and this is one of the main keys to your solution. Now, of course, this is black and white because we don't have a color printer. I tried to pick colors you could distinguish. What are the elements in the chemicals real quickly? Carbon?
Hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen.
Okay. I'm going to let you see if you can distinguish them. I'll be walking around. If you're not sure which is which, I'll help you. Now, do you see what's at the very top of each bar? What does the y-axis tell you that measurement represents? Percent composition of what? Okay, you hear what you just said? Percent composition of each element. So with that, I'm going to let you start working, and I'm going to walk around, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So you get started. Well, I'm going to let you work for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to have like a come together and evaluate each's progress. All right, so get busy. Yes, you know.
No, I didn't.
Y'all were two. You got two chemicals, one you need one. No, this is fast action. He has, each of these sound on him. You can look back at some of your other work. Yeah, you gotta have some sheets. Y'all, if you're not sure how to proceed, I'm coming around, and you can raise your hand if you have an immediate. Okay, I'm coming. Where's your data?
Yeah.
What do you mean, what do you use? I don't know what to use. I raised my hand. I mean, it's the same on you up. You know what?
Now, your job timeline is not indefinite, so make sure y'all stay to work.
When I get a fat pepper, that shit, put that carrot on that bitch. Maybe not get me. I'm coming at what time, but we
What did you just tell her you need to do? That's what I think I'm gonna do.
Everybody has options.
Alright, so what? Alright, I need notepaper.
That's what you're gonna keep on, that's how you're gonna keep.
It says that number 2 has 63.15% composition of carbon.
Alright, so we have, look, I have
Yeah, your two units per, when you may want to three. Yeah, and then the graph is kind of thrown. Okay, first of all, you need to list the elements. You need to list the elements in the, chemical. You want to organize it like we've been doing. I don't know if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Like straight across?
Yeah, yeah, good, that's right, that's how we did it. I'm gonna come back, because that's gonna take you. Yeah. Okay, so you wanna list the elements in the chemical. Pick one, start here, I guess. So you said it's got four elements? You were gonna finish, weren't you? You were doing hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen. We put on the glasses, that might help. Now, so you're doing 5 and she's doing 4? Okay. All right. You, for 4, let's do 4 first. So erase this one here. Okay. We'll just do one step at a time. We got, just looking at 4. You got that chemical, and that chemical. What else do you have? Yeah, so go ahead out here like you've been doing in class. Yeah, I bet you are. You know what These are percent, right? I'm gonna help you from up here. Once you finish, you have.
Dr. Jordan!
Because you gotta write the data underneath each element.
I'm trying to find 2, so I take 63 carbon, 5.30 hydrogen, and 31.55, and the value about the thing. I'm trying to get the empirical formula.
Well, you're going too fast. You think one step at a time. You changed percent to what? Right, and now you're changing grams to moles. So just do one step at a time. You're gonna go get your mole values.
Dr. Jordan!
Then divide it all over, and I got
Right.
Dr. Jordan, can you come help me and tell me what
I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
Well, can you show me what I'm supposed to do?
Well, I need to see a piece of paper you're gonna write on. Okay, I need to know your passengers. Okay, so that 3's kind of jumbled up in there. So here's your 3. Here's your 6. Okay, what you need to do is just do one at a time.
Okay, so we're doing it like we did yesterday on the board.
Well, you're trying to find the identity of the chemical, right? So first of all, list the elements that are present in your chemical. Okay, just do one at a time. 3, so you start with 3. Here, you see how to interpret this?
Yes.
Number 3 had the chemical spilled on them, and it contained these 3 elements, these percentages. It's a really good idea, like you suggested, to maybe look at the work you've been doing and organize it the same way. That's very good. Now, you assume a 100-gram sample. What does this become?
I'm gonna do something good for I'm probably doing it.
Yeah. We gotta have mass, so we have to assume a 100-gram sample. What is the percent? What's 15.87% of a 100-gram sample?
Isn't it itself good?
Well, you can't multiply by a percent. You have to divide by 100. Point. Okay, let's hang on. Listen, I'm not against you. No, 15. Listen, I'm not against you. 15.87.
I got my
Yeah, but then you gotta multiply it by the sample size. That's right. Don't get frustrated.
Oh, I see what you want.
Put your unit. There you go. You got the hang of that. Yeah, but you should be doing you should either be doing number 5 by yourself, and then y'all can both collaborate after you finish, or you can both do 4. It depends on how comfortable you are.
See, look. Oh, you know what we did yesterday. Alright, I do that, and then I'll do it.
You're working on 5, so you're concerned with that.
Shit, I'm over here wiping my nose and shit. It's the gang playing.
Your values are
You divide them by
you gotta do one thing at a time. That's a percent. What's the first thing you have to do with the percent? Wesley, y'all listen. When you have a percent, how do you get grams?
You gotta divide it, but it turns into basically taking a percent away. It'll be the same thing.
What will be the same thing?
If you got like 5.3%, it'll be 5.3 grams. All you're doing is taking away the percent sign.
And replacing it with a what?
A gram.
All right, Shakira, you can help. If I know we were talking and Aaron was writing it. Y'all can work with each other. Call me back up.
Dr. Can you give me for a second?
Yeah, let me write something on the board here. All good? He's done. All good? You gonna get checked out? Do we get a board? Huh? Okay. Yeah. 100. Good question. It's 100. Well, you assume 100. You're asking me a question? Let me see.
So what's the top numbers? Yeah.
Who's your passenger? You got 2 chemicals.
Oh, so 2 different chemicals.
Yeah, that's why y'all need to divvy up. You need to divvy up. You got 4 people. You need to let. It doesn't matter who. I'm not telling you what to do. You could do that chemical, and she could do that chemical. She could do this chemical. Byron could do this chemical, and you can help everybody along.
So we doing it how you do it yesterday?
Yes. Dejanay. Can I borrow your paper?
You just do that while we do it after that.
I'm coming back. Yeah.
Show me real quick.
Right back. I know. This is a team over here wanted to share that.
No, before.
Does that ring a bell?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, don't talk about that test, because if we have our lesson today and you get paid well today and you get paid well tomorrow.
No need no sense. That there's no sample given, right? So it's just
Assume.
that's just 100, right?
Yes.
Give me 200. I'm trying to pass.
Man, bro. Oh, God, I feel well for that shit, bro.
You said cussing in video. Alright, Lex, you coming you too far now. You doing too much. You doing too much. News 19. News 19, back up. Hey, I want to talk. News 19, I want to talk. I ain't getting
Okay, you got that still on you. And you got that still on you.
Seven. 6.9 divided by.
All right, about 3 minutes from now, we're gonna just pause for about 15 seconds and share our progress. Make sure you pause, Alexis, to where, yeah, at some point pause, because when I look at that, I'm.
No, don't take that. Just come over here. You got 2.7. How do I round that? We didn't learn anything but 0.3.
Got it, Jordan.
We just did this all wrong.
Did you divide all mobile by the lowest? Take it out.
Well, it was 2.69. It was
4.
Yeah,
It only has one.
4.
But the whole thing is one chemical compound.
So I can do
So
that.
CHO is one compound. Then this one is his second compound that was placed together.
But it's 4 things.
Yeah, that's 4 personal chemicals. The chemical compound, like H2O, hydrogen,
Okay, I
2O.
get that. I'm just saying there's 4%.
Yeah, 4 different chemicals. But it's only one chemical compound.
Bruh.
yes. Now you go to second one. When you got some access, you can find out places, maybe.
What do we do after we get this part? After we divide it, and we got the grams of it.
Okay, I don't know this math setup. What is that? Do you mean this?
You want to do it like that?
Yes, I do. And then this needs a label. Unit and a label. What's the unit? No, it's not. You divide it by grams to get what? Yes, and then you want to put C. And then you want to put moles. Alright. Then you got to divide those by the lowest. So you have to move down here now. You don't have any room. You got to divide all these by the lowest. Has anyone? I'm coming. I need to help a couple people real quickly.
Dr. Jordan.
Every single person has to have the information. Wesley, give me your point blah blah. You ready? Carbon.
Alright, for carbon I got 63.15 grams.
Now I'm talking about you divide all mole values by the lowest.
Oh, I got 1.97. Whoa, after I divided?
And you divided all mole values by the lowest.
Okay, I got you. The carbon was 2.6.
Okay, hang on.
Hydrogen was 2.6. And oxygen was 1.
Not one.
1.0.
You the compound didn't have nitrogen?
No, ma'am, it's
Okay.
not. The next does.
Okay. So look. I know we were talking about 0.5s multiplied by 2, 0.3 multiplied by 3. This is this extra, so I'm going to just work with you right now. All right, so what you want to do is to create an improper fraction. And what we treat 0.6 as is 2 2/3. We treat, you essentially had 2.66. Bear with me. I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. .66 is treated as 2/3. So I'm gonna put 2/3, 2 and 2/3. Now, what is the improper fraction from this?
8.
Yes, 8 what?
8 grams? Or 8, yeah. So, yeah.
What's it gonna be
Oh,
here?
you got, yeah, it'd be 8/32.
Very good. Now, when you have one like this, you have what you do to one, you have to do to all.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have to create a fraction with a denominator of 3. What over 3 is equal to 1?
9. And 9 divided by 3 is 1. Oh, no, 3. Now I've all messed up.
That?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, now watch. Guess what you got here?
We got 8. So it's gonna be C8, H8, and O3.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah, they cancel out.
Well, the 3's do, but what do these become?
Those become the the empirical. Is it the empirical formula?
Subs. Sub
Oh,
what?
the sub thing.
Sub what?
Scripts.
Subscripts, yeah. I need help with my problem.
Okay, Wesley.
Yes, ma'am.
You see how we ended up canceling the denominator using the numerator?
Yes, ma'am.
What do
I do
I
that with all of them? What about like 2.5?
Oh, that's if you get
Alright, hang on.
2.7?
Yeah. If,
Make sure you're using a lot of digits, cause y'all, everybody listen for a minute. I don't wanna whistle and all that stuff, cause I don't have the capacity. Everybody listen. I want everybody to pause for a minute where you're at. I know that I can't get around to everybody every second. So I would like for you to pause what you're doing and let a neighbor turn to you, and if they have a question, ask your neighbor a question. Like, Aaron and y'all had a question for me, and, turn around and ask Wesley, and same vice versa. Matthew, okay. Now turn around to a neighbor, and if you have a question, I want you to ask them the question. If they can't help you,
I need you, Dr. Joy.
I know you do.
Judge, can I ask you?
Now, look at the board.
Everybody rise and go.
Okay, I need your input.
I'm coming, I just want you to use your neighbor.
Is it possible to get this bill number like this? So what is she?
What's so good about the damn
So it's not even 21.
No.
You gotta use the digits.
You got
So if you offer them, you use your rule.
You gotta use more than one digit.
Put it right here.
Yeah. Well, if you put it up, no,
You gotta do this again. You gotta use 3 more digits. 0.075.
okay, so I gotta, okay.
Do that again. 6.9.
Now, Jordan, can you come here?
So if you got one.
Oh, this part, right, let a number give it. Number give it.
Hang on. tell me if I'm right or wrong, passenger 2 has not nitrogen, just these 3 chemicals?
Yeah.
Okay. You converted grams to moles. Is that correct? You converted grams to moles. Grams to moles. What are you doing here? Yes. Now I need to know if that's 6,6. That's, look, you need to carry more digits because, redo that. I want to know if it's 2.6, 2.7. What? Let me see it. No. Y'all need to, if you don't mind, skip a line. Skip that line and put it right here. You need to carry at least 2 more digits. 0.83, blah, blah.
What, 2.6?
2.67. Now, I'm talking to you. Keith, I'm gonna talk to you. And I know they're talking to each other. I don't want them to get confused. Now, you see where you got 2.66? Doing a video lesson. I'm doing a video lesson, so I need for you to come back, okay? Goodbye. I'm doing a video lesson. Now, we had been doing 2.5, right? And we multiply by 2, right? Okay. But you don't have 2.5. You have 2.76, 2.6. You cannot round. Yeah. Okay, look. Y'all just try to skip lines. Look, it's not gonna be right. You don't need to do that. No, you're trying to do too many things at one time. Now, okay, I need for you to think about the recent lessons. We would have 0 or 9, you could round, right? There. We don't have 0 or 9. The only other example we've had was a 0.5, right? We had to multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2. Right? You can't multiply by 2 here because you don't have a 5. So please quit making that noise. So I'm telling you, what you're going to have to do is 2.6 in chemistry is treated as 2 2/3. 0.6 is treated like that. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite this 2 2/3. Now, what's 3 times 2? Plus 2. Yeah, you might want to erase that. And you end up with 8/3, right? We rewrote this as that. It will be. You want to change this to the fraction and change that fraction expression to this. And then, so what you do to one, you have to do to all. So you're going to have a common denominator. What over? What over 3 equals 1? What divided by 3 equals 1? What did you say this is going to be like?
It's only does the 1
Right, because it'll be 2/3. What you do is you cancel these, and those become your subscripts.
So it'll be. No, you better not.
I know, I'm trying not.
We're not doing it.
No,
So I don't.
that's your chemical, your personal. And now what you need to do is help the others, because you seem to understand. So I'm talking about your group others.
I know. Come on, Daddy. Come on,
Yeah,
Daddy.
you're doing a good job, Gary.
Why are you using six?
Write that down.
Using it, that's what he gave us.
She gave you six.
I just divided them two.
You divided this. Is that?
You make sure the camera's not focused on the wall.
What you doing, Mom?
Yes, I do. She
Get that phone on.
She said get the phone.
That phone on.
Because I was using my phone as a calculator.
Get the phone on.
What down?
What you doing?
Yes, I do. I was doing it yesterday.
252525.
You held it up.
So can you say 2.3 and not everything like that? Or you can't round like that?
0.25 is 1/4. All right.
Well, I need you after Wesley's.
Okay.
What you putting in?
Just checking some of your values.
93. See? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So what about it?
Yeah.
So that's right.
Yeah.
So it will be 18.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't come this game like that. Like I don't know what I'm doing now.
No, I scared myself.
And that could be one right there.
Yes.
Period, Pooh.
Now, keep plugging along now, because was that one you finished? You got another passenger.
So if this
Period. Now who don't know what they do? Stop playing on me.
News 19 reporting live, man.
Let me look at your data quickly. Yeah, you gotta make this division, right? I need to see this division.
I know mine does.
And you gotta use units.
You got 2 different days. I don't have 14.
Kedra, I need for you to go back to your group.
Are you ready?
And I don't want to have any pay deductions.
She looked at my hand.
Okay, tell them over here.
Y'all listen, please. Listen, please. You should not be leaving your group. Nobody's paycheck needs to be deducted. Now, I need to remind everybody of this. I know some of you are stretching your legs. You're kind of like getting a little break here. Do not forget to use labels. If you're converting from grams to moles, listen, that stuff's expensive. The tissue you're using on mine is expensive. So I know, please don't get more than you need. I appreciate that. I'm reminding everybody that your results have to have labels. If it's a gram, it's a G. If it's a mole, it's M-O-L-E. Some of y'all are going to have paycheck deductions for silly things like units. So just take a minute to double check. Okay, so you got small. It's 2 and 4. It's 9, right?
9-4. Then you got 8-4.
Very good.
And then you cancel the number.
Very good.
So
Excellent.
it'll be
Dr. Jordan. Dr. Jordan, how far am I going?
What?
Please, I need to borrow you right quick. For this,
Just go.
I just said, please.
Y'all stay focused.
What we doing here? Can you come out
Don't
and
do
give a
that.
number?
Don't do that. You determine the formula. Looks like you got it, right?
I do, but this part, we still do this part right
No.
because of this?
No.
You don't?
You're trying to work too hard. I know. So you know that how many chemicals did passenger 6 have? 1.
about doing that.
Okay.
Well, I got to do this.
Passenger 4 had 1 chemical. You did it. You did it right.
All of that?
Right. That's right. Now you got that chemical on passenger 4 and that chemical on passenger 6. Right? You can use the internet. I don't care if you use your phone. See if you can find out the identity of that formula. I'm coming. I know y'all be patient.
My numbers are big.
Y'all need to space your workout a little more. You're not using units. Well, you're gonna have to go back and use units. Okay, I'm not sure what any of this is. You divide by the lowest. What was the answer? 6 divided by 0.33. I'm not, I don't know what a number is with 18.x3.
0.007.
What did you get? I need to punch it in the calculator again. Okay, let me tell you, y'all are using too few numbers. When you just use 0.33, that's gonna cause problems here. Do 4.68 divided by 14.
That was right for me. I got what did were the same.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Why you're punching it.
For 5? Yeah, I have
I got 0.33.
42.8. You need to use more numbers. Now, use 33.43. Go back and divide these by 0.3343. All of them. Yeah, you didn't use enough digits. 0.3343.
Dr. Jordan, I still need you.
Can you use the back?
It's okay. Either divide. We'll just punch the values in real quick. You do the same thing. You need to use at least 4 digits to the right of the decimal. So I need for you to divide these again.
The
You
chemical
really,
was nitrogen. How do you say that?
nitroglycerin?
Yes.
You can write that down. Good.
We need help.
We all have to be honest.
Y'all can turn to a neighbor to help you if you need one. You, okay, you done your second chemical? You done your second chemical?
We done all of them. But isn't that one like the little, I think I've seen that chemical.
You, don't give me a number while you're multiplying by 2. I need to know the answer to your divided by the lowest mole value. You see what I'm saying? You divided all mole values by the... Hang on a second.
You mean when I divide? Oh, I divided by the lowest.
Y'all are, I
just didn't
your
mark
math
it.
etiquette. Look, here, you divided this by the lowest, right?
Because I put the
Make sure
division
it's-
sign instead of showing.
Make sure if it's a 0, it's a 0. Now, this needs to be labeled, that's why I can't.
Yeah, I can go back and do that. Look at hers.
Okay, so I see you got your 0.5 here. Okay, I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't.
Then you go back and do your labels.
So we get 100 right now.
The other one is aspartame.
Now, I need for you to use at least like 2 more decimal places. Redo these like I'm doing it here.
I've seen that little post
See how it was last
one of those little days ever.
Are we turning these in?
Yes, after we have a discussion.
Is your painting?
Now, I need to know what that is. 3.4 what? No, you can't multiply times 2 times 0.4. You need to divide that again. Tell me what the next decimal place is. You just need to say the decimal place. I'll come back.
No, you didn't go that far. I went like
All right, hang on. There are a lot of, listen please. There are a lot of you who are needing me. Now, you need to see if you can help a neighbor. You are not finished. If you have your chemical formulas, I need for you to research the identity, the name. This group has found nitroglycerin and aspartame. You need to research it. I'll come there.
And I have mine all right, so don't ever.
Okay, mine's all right too.
No,
I had my number for y'all.
No, you didn't.
0.5.
Now try to come here.
You got
Now next up. Camera side too.
if you
Dude, 19, what you got here today? What's the report? What?
Yes, that's good. Keep carrying it.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You know he's smart.
Okay, so you want to say this. He had two chemicals still on it. He might have it still here. And then he had this one. Still here. He had two chemicals still on it. That's one chemical, that's the same chemical. Okay. All right, we're getting ready? All right, be quiet. Let me say something here, please, Dakota. Please listen.
I'm listening.
And that was for everybody. We're getting ready to pause and share out. The minimum that every single group should be able to share is the chemical formula for the chemicals that's spilled on your passenger. So whatever you have to do to identify the chemical formula, whether it's get a neighbor to help you or me, that's what you need to do. If you've already done that, you need to be looking up, you can use your cell phone, I don't care, the identity of the chemical. Okay. 3 minutes here, we're going to come together. What am I looking for?
Oh, that's what I got.
This mine.
You like that?
Like if that's passenger.
Now, you really like stuff like this. We get half.
Three of them.
Do you know all the chemical names? Cause you look.
No, I'm familiar with this particular
Oh,
area.
just type it in like that. C10, just type it in.
Which one is it, Dr.?
Let me see.
Where's all the steps? That's right. Yes.
Why don't you search common name? That'll be, I think, help us. Search the common name.
I don't have one. So I know what's going with the Facebook too, but this is my question. So when it's 2.9, it was 2.9. I think it's round up to 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that'd be C18, H21, N1, and 0, and 03. All right. And on this one, it'll be the same thing. Do I gotta do the times 2 because it's 2.5?
Yep, but do you do it just to that one, or do you?
No, you gotta do all of them.
You got it. Y'all look at the common name. Okay, get ready to come together here.
We keeping this to that?
Now, you see, these are your soldiers. You can write your formula.
You got all our stuff. We have vanilla steel.
That has vanilla. Like, so vanilla.
I thought we was gonna have cocaine too, because then I was gonna think they were on the.
You might.
Cause I was thinking if we ever eat a vanilla milkshake, then we're gonna eat it. And then like, it was like, this is good. It needs a little something.
Shut up.
Now, listen. We're getting ready to share out. But what you can do if you already know your chemical formula is quietly, you can come to the board and you can write your chemical formula. While you're waiting on everyone. Yeah. While I'm helping some other people.
Don't write too long. Hold on now. You got two too? Right here.
Uh,
No, but you know how it's two. You make the same thing. Did y'all get this?
You're blocking the window.
That one.
Turn around.
I got vanilla.
And I gotta write the name.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna do 6.
Well, I'm not writing.
They about to do ours.
all right, everybody, I need for you to listen. You can back up some legs. I'm gonna wrap this up. Back over there.
Wait a minute, why she said walk over?
Everybody listen, please. You gotta wrap this up, don't wanna be caught by the bell. Now, if you would kindly not have a paycheck deduction, you're so close. You've done so well, really you've done well. And I know, listen, I know whenever you have, y'all please finish strong. Byron.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me finish. You've done a really good job. Tomorrow, we're going to decide who we think is the murderer. And so keep your sheets. We're going to finish the lesson tomorrow.